Are you getting 100% control of your German cockroaches? We're going to discuss it on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest news, products, and politics from today's leading industry pros, offering you their technical marketing and growth strategies to give you, the pest management professional, that killer edge. Welcome to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. This is Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek. I am so excited that you tuned in to this podcast. I have a great article that I'm going to be discussing, and it was published originally in October of 2007 by the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology. And the title of this article was Cockroach Allergen Reduction by Cockroach Control Alone in Low-Income and Urban Homes, a randomized control trial. What I found fascinating about the article is that they were able to reduce drastically, to do their trial, they were able to reduce drastically allergens produced by German cockroaches. But in the process, they had such good documentation of what they did that they included the time that it took to actually get this done per service, the time that it took for the initial service, the time that it took for monitoring. They did such a great job that it's such a good article. If you want to land more commercial business for multi-unit dwelling, and you want to show how you can get them complete control, this is a great article. It is published in the National Institute of Health. So it is a scientific study. It's not just a nilly-willy study. I mean, it's very, very well documented. And they were able to demonstrate how they got 99 to 100% control within 6 months of starting the program. And they did it compared to 4 other pest control companies that did the traditional services in the same arena, and they only were able to get 83% control. This is, like I said, it's a fascinating study, and I wanted to go over it with you and discuss it so you can see it. Now, what's the background of this? Well, what they did is they were trying to prove that they could reduce allergen concentration in urban homes by reducing cockroach infestations. Okay, and they determined the effectiveness of pest control performed by professional entomologists compared to commercial companies in reducing cockroach allergens. So the entomologists went into these roach-infested buildings, and they said, we have this protocol that we're going to implement to reduce, and then we're going to monitor for the reduction of allergens. It turns out that they were able to get complete control as a result of their study. And they did it in comparison to having 4 other pest control companies use their methods to get control. All right. So here's how the way the treatment worked out. Treatment 1, which was theirs, the entomologist treatment, had insecticide baits placed by entomologists from North Carolina State University. That's it. All they used was bait, 100% bait. Treatment to receive pest control from randomly assigned commercial company. They vacuum dusted samplings and cockroach trapping were conducted at 0, 6, and 12 months. Okay, so they vacuumed, and they were able to take all those vacuum samples from all of the units that they were doing a trial on, and we're going to send it to a laboratory to monitor the amount of allergens that were in those samples as a result of what they were trying to prove. All right. Now, before I give you the conclusion, I want to go over the study and how they went about it and give you their numbers, because I think the numbers were so impressive as far as the way they did it and how they documented the way they did it, that you can actually take this and duplicate it and get the same results. I mean, this is what we've been doing at our business for the last 6 years. We actually just found a study that actually proved that what we were doing was the way it should have been done. And when we actually go in and do these types of services, and we were so excited that we actually found this, and it was so documented. I mean, because usually we'll get studies and we'll see that they did so many studies and they had so many samples and they did this, that, and the other, but they don't tell you how they did it. And they don't tell you what numbers they used and what product they used and how they did it. I think this way it was done. You could actually be able to produce a price for your company to do this just based on the data. And I think that was what to me was most exciting. All right, now, the effectiveness of the treatment was demonstrated by profound reductions in trapped cockroaches in infested homes. Between 50 to 500 cockroaches trapped at a baseline in 18 traps deployed for 3 nights. So they took 18 traps, they put it into these. Now, these are basically apartments, okay? These are not single-family homes. These are apartments. And they were able to trap between 50 to 500 roaches in 3 nights. And this is how the entomologists determined where they were going to put their baits and in what areas based on the results they got back from their bait traps. All right. Gel bait placement was guided through a visual inspection and layout map of the homes, trap counts, and insecticidal label directions. Although we did not actively attempt to prevent infestations or reinfestations. This was not their goal. This was just almost like serendipity. All right. So then what they did not try to do is they did not try to prevent infestations by repairing cracks and holes. Okay. So they did no exclusion, only baiting. Okay. It was amazing. And did not educate residents about removing food, water sources, or any second interventions. They didn't want the people to start cleaning and then get messed up results. So it was very scientific. They just let people do what they normally did. And they worked on just the control method by using the bait. All right. Now, what they found was that they were able to reduce the home's infestation between 99 to 100%, in this 12-month study that they did. And they were in the homes on 0, 3, 6, 9, and 12 months with monitors, monitoring everything that they did and where to put these bait placements based on the results they got back from the monitors. Okay? Now, what they also were able to do, and there's charts in here that show the samples that they got back from their bait traps and the samples they got back from all the companies that they hired. Now, how did what was the criteria for inclusion? They had to be able to trap between 50 and 1,000. You know, they what they did is they took 150 apartments, 150 units, and they put out these bait monitors and said, okay, how do we know these people are going to qualify? Is they all have to have between 50 and 1,000 German roaches. That was their criteria. And they would put 18 traps in every unit, left it there overnight, came back and collected the samples, and those were the ones that were going to get into the program. All right. Now, they hired 4 local pest control companies to do this with them. In other words, they were going to use their methods, and these guys were going to use their method. And the way they assigned it was completely random. So there wasn't this one has more roaches, so we're going to give you these, the harder ones. No, it was randomized block that was given out evenly with no criteria how they handed out this. Now, they used a vacuum cleaner and they used a mesh filter to trap all of the allergens for testing, and then they took it back to the lab every time they did these, and the deployed were done at, like I said, 0, 1, 3, 6, 9, and 12 months. Okay, so now we have a baseline criteria of what we're using to monitor this, and then we go ahead and deploy. Now, the pest control companies that were doing, they were using their normal baseboard sprays in the kitchen, normal baseboard sprays all over the house, their normal dusting, whatever it is they did. Some of them used a combination of sprays and baits, and that was the whatever criteria. In other words, they didn't tell them what to do. They said, you just do it the way you normally would do it, and we're going to do it this way to see if it works and see what happens. Okay. And one of the products that they use was Max Force Roach Killer, which has the hydromethanol. They also used the abamectin, the Advert Dry Flowable, and they also use Preempt Cockroach Gel Bait by Bayer, which uses the 2.15 imidacloprid. All right, these were the only 3 products that they used for this treatment, and for 12 months. Now, the initial treatment, here's where it gets good. They documented how long this initial treatment took that they did, okay, with the Max Force hydromethanol application. It took 1.5 hours for them to do an initial service. This was after they placed the monitors. They came back and said, okay, here's where all the roaches are concentrating based on the monitors we've put out. And it took them about 1.5 man hours to do an initial treatment. Now, obviously, these are entomologists. They're monitoring. They're looking at stuff. They're saying, okay, we're going to place it like this. We're going to place it like that. They're being very meticulous. Okay. In an apartment building, it would probably take me 45 minutes to an hour to do a very, very solid roach bait gel, the way they're describing it here. And then the follow-up services only took between 15 minutes and half an hour for all the follow-ups they did. And they only did 5 follow-ups throughout the whole year, services, okay? Then the treatment number 2 was they got a 1-year contract, companies to come out, and they weren't told, these companies were not told that they were in a study. Nobody was told they were in a study. They did not know. And the person would say, okay, I want a contract for 1 year for you to control my roaches. And they would sign the contract. The university paid for the study, gave them a money order. Say, here, pay for the study and pay for the 1 year contract. And they're going to monitor what they're going to do. In other words, these companies did not know that they were in a study. They were just doing what they normally did. And like I said, they used multiple methods. What was the conclusion of all this? They also had what they called an untreated control home. They had these homes that did not get treated at all, and they were continuing to doing the monitoring with the stations all the time. And then they would count the amount of roaches they got from non-treated units, and they would also get monitoring back from the allergens that they got from everyone. So they had treated homes by the entomologist, non-treated homes, and then the treated homes that were done by the professional pest control company. All right. Here's what they found. That at the end of the study, I'm going to give you this, there was no significant reduction between the controlled homes and the professional pest control companies that they hired in allergen reduction, even though there was a reduction of up to 83% in the German cockroach population. The allergen level did not drop significantly for the service they had done for a whole year. What does that tell us? What it's basically telling us is that you still have a 20-25% German roach infestation, you're still going to have the same amount of allergens. You have to get complete control in order to reduce the amount of allergens in this study. So when you're selling a business, you're selling a service, and somebody says, well, we got 83% control. I mean, that's wonderful, right? Compared to the 100% you had. Not really. An 83%, 85% control from a health perspective is not significant. And that's the challenge that we have as pest control operators, that are we really being effective? Because we can sell the pitch that says renew the contract, get another year. But are we really getting control? And does the data support the fact that we're getting control and are people's health better? You see, because if the purpose is to just generate another contract, get another contract for a year, are we really serving people? That's my challenge here, my perspective, because I get people that, well, we got most of them, we got a lot of them, but the study shows that the impact to the environment by applying the chemicals was great. The reduction in pesticide was substantial in pests, but the allergens weren't really that impressive. They did, in other words, how long did it take? There's a great chart that shows how quickly the entomologists were able to get control compared to the 4 other pest control companies. They were able to get control, really good control, by almost 99% in 6 months. Where by the end of the study, it took them 12 months and they still couldn't get but 83%. That's what I found significant. That's what I found just very impressive about the way they did this study. And what it shows is that your treatment has to be guided by IPM principles and the monitoring. If you're not monitoring and all you're doing is applying a chemical and you're not seeing where the infestation is, how do you really know that you're getting control? And then the second part that you have to ask yourself is, do you even care? Because I understand, you have a large urban apartment building that you're doing. The managers don't want to pay for a better service. But really, how much of it is influenced by us just saying, it's under control. It's under control. Are there monitors there? I use monitors extensively in our restaurant business because I prove to the customer, says, look how many roaches you had in the monitors before I came here from the other pest control company. And here we are 3 months later, and there isn't, we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 monitors in this place, and there isn't a single roach. And you haven't seen any. Can you tell me that what you had before was control? Because I use that as a selling point to show the customer when he says, I went with you because your price was higher, because you told me you could get control, and here we are 3 months later and you got control. What you did was, as a business perspective, and I tell this to the client, I said, you wasted your money before. Because I justified to you that my higher cost of the way I do it actually gets you control. You see, and it does cost more, guys. I mean, they compared it and they said, and I disagree with their numbers on this as far as the pricing goes, because they weren't basing it on the cost of pest control. They came up with an hourly figure that they thought this was worth, when the reality is, from a profitability standard, it's a lot more. And they compared their costs that came in at, about 2/3 of what the other company was charging based on the annual. And I think those numbers aren't really that good. But what I was impressed with is that they documented how long it took. So you have a realistic expectation about what it's going to take you to get this done if you decide to go this route. And now, despite the reduction in treatment 2 homes, which were the pest control, they only got a 35% reduction in allergens. 83% reduction in the roaches in the kitchen. But when they tested the kitchen for allergens, they only got a 35.7% reduction in allergens, which really isn't that significant for that huge of a drop in cockroaches. Treatment 1 homes received the additional bait placements after trapping visits, of which more than one cockroach was found. They were very meticulous. And that's what it's going to take to get that kind of service. If you're not going to be meticulous about your monitoring and you're just going to assume you're killing them because you don't see them there during the day when you come and perform the service, you could be kidding yourself that you're actually getting control. And somebody who is astute, somebody who's a real pro comes in and says, I'm going to put monitors in here, are going to eat your lunch. And they're going to take that business away from you by being able to prove that there's still roaches there. And that's where what we're getting at is, are you getting real control or do you have the illusion of control? And that's what we have to be honest. Now, here's the numbers they came up with. And like I said, I don't agree with the pricing because I don't think that I don't think the pest control companies shared what their hourly costs are. If your hourly costs are somewhere between $100 and $125, your price would have been the same to what the annual contract was of those companies or more to perform this. Here's what they came up with. The total cost of treatment, one, was estimated at $281 per home for 12 months. But $80-something per treatment. Because remember, they didn't go out. The other companies went out every month. They went out quarterly. They did one. They went out to monitor. They did the service. They went back after a month, did another service, and didn't come back again for 3 months. And then they didn't come back until month 6, and they didn't come back until month 9, and then they didn't come back until month 12, where the 12-month cost involved usually a monthly service. They estimated the cost of bait placement ranged between $61 and $124, with a medium cost of about $80 for 12 months of treatment. The cost over 12 months for the cockroach trap, labor to place and retrieve them, were at $201 per home. I'm having trouble, and I wish I could get some of these guys on the phone. I'm having trouble understanding if this is all added up together, but they're saying it's $281. So I think what they're doing is taking the $201 for the monitoring, which was they're claiming is the expensive part, and then the $80 for the total cost of all the treatments together came up with $281. The cost for a 12-month contract on average for the pest control company came in at about $475 for the year. So an initial service and a quarterly service at $65, you would get around that much. All right. They weren't able to get any health impact study, which was not the goal of this, to say, well, did we were able to reduce the allergens very, 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 very effectively. But we were not able to do a study to see how good the health of the people improved. And I don't think that was the goal of that study. I think it was for them to prove that they could get an allergen reduction, and then, how based on control alone. And that was the goal of the study. And I think they were very successful at demonstrating that. One of the things that they do have are great charts to show how they came in the bedrooms, in the kitchens, in the bath, in the living rooms. They went in, basically by unit. Every time they came in, they took monitoring, and they were able to show how many reductions there were every single time in every time they collected a sample. And one of the table that I really like was the one that they got medium cockroach count at homes at room level. And that was the favorite one because that one shows really the control. The other ones show the allergens and all that, which, for you, it's great that you can prove it to somebody, but for the pest control operator, you're interested in the control part. The in the whole house, the overall in the whole house, here's where the initial treatment one, they counted 426.5 roaches average between 20 homes. So these were 20 homes apiece that they took, 20 for the control one and 20 for the control two, which were the professional pest control operators. All right. After 1 month, they were able to find 5 roaches on average in 1 out of 19, where the professional pest control operators were counting 127 roaches. They got almost a little bit more than 50% reduction in 1 month. After 2 months, they were able to find 2 roaches, 8 out of 19 homes. The professional pest control company was at 106, about the same medium. After 6 months, they were down to 0, and 10 out of 16 homes were down to 0, where the pest control company, 1 out of 17 homes, had 56 roaches. After a year, 0.5 roaches in the entomology's homes, 51 roaches. There wasn't a significant drop. They had a spike at about 9 months in the professional, where the application of the bait only, and this is what they proved, that the application of bait only versus combination for German cockroach infestation is much more effective. And they were able to go down through the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, and get the same. They were able to get 0 in the rooms. After a year, the professional in the bedroom still had 14 roaches, 3 out of 10 homes. 8 out of 10 homes had 0. Better control, better allergen reduction. Overall, they smoked them, and they were able to prove that. And I think we need to be challenged by this, not intimidated, not offended, not ticked off, because a lot of people can get that way. We can get defensive when somebody calls us out. I think as professional operators, we need to look at this and say, how do we raise the bar? The enemy of great is good. That's the enemy of great. If you want to be great, you will never be able to settle for just good. Good was 85, 83%. Great was 0.5 to 0. And there's a margin of difference there. And the effort was a lot more. We have to acknowledge that the placement of those stations, monitoring of those stations, deciding where you're going to apply them over a year's time to get control, and having realistic expectations for the resident and for the property managers. Setting realistic. I think the study allows you to develop a program for German cockroach control that is effective. And you can prove that it's effective based on this study. And I think that's probably a good tool that you have to be able to do that. I really hope, guys, that this has been useful to you, that you've enjoyed it. And I want to remind you about our news feed on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at Pest Geek Podcast on Twitter. And also check out our website at pestgeekpodcast.com. It's www.pestgeekpodcast.com. Hey, until next time, folks, it's been great having and being here with you, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.